Everyone, hope you're doing really well. It's the 11th of April 2025. I'm Gary Waterman. I'm a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable and corroborative evidence, overwhelming evidence of decades-long international government fraud by our governments and their organisations. This is by them forging company registration systems and the incorporation documents to create criminal entity companies against their own legislation and against their own laws. The criminal system they have in place deliberately facilitates the most awful crimes against humanity, including international conflicts, terrorist offences, and crimes against the most innocent of all, the children, through their abuse, torture for their blood and organs, and their murder. The royal family, who are very likely imposters linking into the murders of the real heirs of the throne in the late 1950s and 60s, the intelligence agencies, the police, the military, and all government organisations are involved and complicit in this. This includes presidents, prime ministers around the world, and there's now confirmation that it's linked to a satanic cult that may also have been infiltrated as part of the deception by ancient pharaoh bloodline coming from Egypt, which appears to tie in with the murder of the Princess of Wales. In fact, there will be many high-profile deaths that have occurred as a result of this international government fraud. Those behind this have infiltrated all faith groups, but in particular they've targeted Muslims, Christians and Jews to create a risk of conflict and divide, and to fit the Albert Pike letter document that was written to Mazzini of the Illuminati, tying into the Vatican back in 1871. This appears to be an authentic document that was removed from the British Museum Library in London in 1977, the year I was born. There are so many things tying in with my life personally that it is without question in my mind that I have been positioned divinely to intervene and prevent what these people may have been planning. And in this document, we're going to look at a deliberate escalation by Donald Trump, tying in with Iran and Benjamin Netanyahu, and how this links into the fraud and also to the Church of England and to the royal family. Now, the evidence is so overwhelmingly obvious now that it appears there is a trail of evidence potentially been left or altered somehow deliberately to allow this to be exposed before it goes beyond the point of no return. And I cannot emphasize how important this evidence is to save humanity and probably Earth itself. So let's look at a recent article by the BBC, who are also complicit to this criminal system. And this was a few days ago. And all I've done in this document is screenshot the evidence and put it into a document to make it easier to present it, but also it then secures it. And this is the thing that they will be very worried about, are these documents. Please verify and corroborate all of the information that you can. And the article says, US in direct nuclear talks with Iran, Trump says. The US and Iran are holding direct talks over a possible nuclear deal on Saturday, so that's tomorrow. Donald Trump has said discussions between Washington and Tehran will be at very high level. The US president said on Monday, before warning it could be a very bad day for Iran if no agreement was reached. Last month, Trump raised the prospect of military action against Iran after its supreme leader publicly rejected the offer of direct talks. Trump disclosed the talks after a White House meeting with Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu, who has also previously raised the prospect of attacking Iran to stop it from acquiring nuclear weapons. Speaking in the Oval Office, Trump said, "We have a very big meeting on Saturday with Iran, and we're dealing with them directly, and maybe a deal is going to be made that would be great." Trump later said Iran would be in great danger if the talks were not successful, adding, "Iran cannot have nuclear weapon, and if the talks aren't successful, I actually think it's a very bad day for Iran." Now, everyone needs to understand this is an international collaborative deception. The satanic cult has infiltrated very high levels of every government pretty much around the world. This includes Iran, everybody. And it does tie in now with the evidence that I'm acquiring surrounding the Green Movement, okay, which was protest in Iran starting up in 2009, which is very relevant in relation to this, okay? And that Green Movement appears to be tying in with the climate change agenda as well, all linking in together very, very quickly now in relation to this international collaborative deception against humanity. And everything we're seeing is a theatre and a deception against humanity, okay, by a very small number of people on the scale of things. This includes Donald Trump, it includes Iran, it includes Vladimir Putin, it includes Ukraine, all working collaboratively together over this fraud. Remember, it's linked to tax, it's linked to financial institutions, and it's worth trillions, and it enables and facilitates their sinister, addictive lifestyles. And there will be substance abuse is going to be a huge part of this, which is making these people irrational. Okay, so we have international governance that is not rationally thinking. And that's a very big part of this. So this is increasing the rhetoric and risk of escalation to potentially a nuclear war and therefore the end of the world. And there was also some comments by Donald Trump previous to this, which I featured on another document, where he was specifically talking about the end of the world, okay, tying in with nuclear weapons. Now, I believe this is deliberately being publicised for the evidence that I'm disclosing, because they know what I'm doing, and I actually believe this is all deliberate for me to see how I react to it. So moving on, and I don't quite know what they're expecting me to do. I think they're waiting for me to do something. That is how I'm feeling about this. But really, the choice is theirs, and it's always been the choice, okay, to choose between good and evil, or moral conscience and a rational state of mind, or to be sinful. Okay. Now, I believe that Scripture has been infiltrated. Very likely, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, most Scripture, because before World War I, the evidence shows that a German company, which was all tying in with this, took over the world's educational establishments, media, publishing, tying in with the Maxwells, Robert Maxwell, okay, and therefore Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell later, okay, all tying in. Now, that meant they had the ability from that point on, before World War I, to control all information. Okay, remember, all mainstream media is involved in this. All social media platforms are involved. All newspaper companies. They control the money. They purchased and we're going to come to it in a minute, actually, the voting capabilities. Democracy is a lie because of this. They purchased the currency producer, the LaRue, is part of this. So they're able to buy and control everything. But they don't actually own anything, because the companies behind it are criminal and fraudulent. So therefore, the ownership through those companies is non-existent legally, okay, because they're created fraudulently in their creation. And the registration systems are now being linked to this fraud. That includes the birth certificate registration, marriage certificates, okay, registration. That means all of it is obsolete. Everything we've ever known is obsolete and deception and fraudulent. Let that just sink in because of this fraud. And this is very important, because if the forgery and the incorporations right back at the beginning of this, okay, and they're running the systems, that's the problem. That's the key problem right back at their creation. So all these people saying, and I'm still getting people saying, Gary, you need to focus on common law, focus on the Sesca Levy, focus on the Magna Carta. It all becomes obsolete because of this system of crime and fraud. If this isn't dealt with, then the world's problems will not be resolved, okay? Because it will be allowed to continue in the background with the laundering of money linking to all of these world crimes. So let's look at Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin was born in 1949. He's an Israeli politician who has served as the Prime Minister of Israel since 2022. First of all, 1949, the year after the Israel-Arab War. But remember, there is no verification through Companies House. This is deliberate, and many of these people will be using false names, false dates of births, okay, as part of the deception. All right, and this is shown, you can see this with I'll give you a very quick example, the research of Rishi Sunak. Okay, so there's one date of birth shown on Wikipedia, very likely the satanic element in this, wicked. But it does appear that they're telling us what they're doing in conjunction with the Companies House registration system. And with their karmic law, they have to tell the public, although they're not doing it as they should, okay, on mainstream media, saying, by the way, we're defrauding you, or by the way, we're involved in child trafficking. They're putting the evidence for the right people to find it. Okay, but it's all still deception. So Rishi Sunak has a different date of birth on Wikipedia as he does on his Companies House record. So one of them is going to be false. Okay. So Benjamin Netanyahu, he was the Prime Minister since 2022. Remember, I started acquiring the evidence through the company I was removed from, Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, in 2022. It's a key year. That triggered many things, including falsified biblical prophecies, which is what we're looking at here. What they're trying to now do as they're being exposed is they're leading to falsified biblical prophecies. But remember, those prophecies may well have been written and falsified into scripture before this generation of individuals. So these people then, when they become exposed, they can falsify the biblical prophecies and use that as a reset to the system and save themselves and remove billions of people to ensure that they get away with their crimes. So since 2022, he's previously held the positions as well there, and he's the longest serving Prime Minister in Israel's history. He was born to secular Jewish parents. He was raised in West Jerusalem and the United States. He returned to Israel in 1967 to join the Israel Defense Forces and served in the Sayeret Matkal Special Forces. Now, this is all very relevant. The Israel Defense Forces company is part of the fraud that was created in early 1900s, and I've acquired that evidence, which I'm going to hopefully show in this. There's going to be a series of videos from the evidence of what I believe is the staged attack on the 7th of October 2023. Okay, as I'm continuing to expose the fraud, and that was at the Nova Music Festivals. Now, 1967 is a key year. It's the year after the foundation of the Church of Satan, and it's also when the second most important company in this international government fraud, the London Law Agency, was incorporated. On the London Law Agency's incorporation document is Jordan's and Sons Limited, the most important company in the fraud, and that was founded in 1965, the year before the Church of Satan was founded in 1966. And the Church of Satan was named after a knight in Germany, so it ties to Germany. So these dates are becoming relevant. So he returned to Israel in that year. Excuse me. In 1972, he returned to the United States. This is the year after the creation of the World Economic Forum. Okay, now the World Economic Forum are a very small group of individuals based in Switzerland, a neutral country, which again all ties into the satanic plan, which goes right back to the neutralization, shall we say, of Switzerland in, I haven't got it in front of me, I think it's 1815. All starting from back then, okay? This is where the World Economic Forum is based. This is where the CERN Hadron Collider is. It's where the World Health Organization is. Now, 3 days after I sent my evidence to the World Economic Forum and the FBI and NATO, Klaus Schwab announced he was stepping down as the chair for the first time ever since 1971. That was in 2024 when I released the evidence. So they realized the game was up, and they were probably trying to make me feel as though I don't have to continue my exposure, or they wanted it to be exposed more. I don't know. So 1972, the year after the World Economic Forum, he returned to the United States. Just read further down there. Netanyahu made his closeness to Donald Trump, a friend since the 1980s, central to his appeal from 2016. This ties in with when Donald Trump was becoming the president for the first time, of course, as well. Now, this also links in with the climate change, okay, which links to the green movement tying to Iran that we're going to come to later. And 2015 was the year of the Paris Climate Change Agreement, okay? It's all relative. So he was a friend, anyway, to Donald Trump since the 1980s. The 1980s, or 1980 specifically, is when the Georgia Guidestones were erected in America. Go and look at them. They were granite stones put up, and they were making reference to an upcoming apocalyptic event involving nuclear weapons. That they were destroyed or damaged and then removed, in 2022, as I was making inquiries within Companies House. The same time that Vladimir Putin announced a special military operation against Ukraine in February 2022. Now, talking about the votes here and the presidencies, it's all falsified because in 1961, De La Rue, I think it's 1961, De La Rue purchased Waterloos, which is linked to the production of the money around the world. But they also, I can't remember the year, but they also purchased Sequoia, which is the company that creates the machines that counts the votes, okay, in voting, including in UK and America. So they've gained the ability to falsify the elections as part of this fraud. So the US recognised Jerusalem as capital of Israel, Israeli sovereignty over Golan Heights, and brokered the Arabian Accords normalization agreements between Israel and the Arab world. Now, as part of the international satanic deception, I suspect that Jerusalem is not even in Israel as we know it today. I suspect that was created as part of the deception, and Israel was actually created or fomented as part of this satanic deception against humanity. And that was in 1917, was the Balfour Declaration involving the Rothschilds, okay, which also ties in with all of this. And then that leads to the Israel-Arab War in 1948, after the United Nations signed a petition in 1947, okay, and the Rothschilds linking with the Church of England into Russia, and all that this international government fraud all overlaps with the Flemings very, very quickly. So, the Georgia Guidestones were removed. We mentioned that 1980s apocalyptic event. I'm not going to read all of that on the right. On the left here. So this is all about Netanyahu, and we're going to come to Companies House records and the relevance of that in a minute. Between 1956 and 1958, he lived in the United States. 1958 is when Prince Charles, was given the initiation to become the Prince of Wales in 1969, which is very relevant in all of this, because when he became the Prince of Wales in 1969, he, I believe, had involvement then with the Companies House, which was based in Wales, and they're the ones that create the criminal fraudulent companies, okay, through the forgery of the register and the forgery of the incorporation documents. 1969 is the same year that the Americans supposedly landed on the moon. And please go and look at my satanic document and evidence in relation to all of that, all tying in. So he then also lived in America from 1963 to 1967. Now remember, 1963 is the date or the year of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which I think is all now tying in with this, okay? So that was 1963. You had the creation of the Church of Satan in 1966, and then in 1967, Netanyahu went back to Israel, and that's when the creation of the London Law Agency happened. I've just circled at the bottom here that he was interested in soccer. Now, talking about Jerusalem, I suspect, I suspect the real Jerusalem is actually Edinburgh. That's where the oldest Freemason lodge is based, and Edinburgh, Eden. Okay, it's where the oldest Freemasons lodge is based, and the Freemasons are massively implicated in this fraud. They seem to be the one running it, and they are linked to the Church of Satan via the Baphomet. Okay, the Baphomet is the symbol of the Church of Satan. But go and look at the other videos in relation to that. After graduating from high school in 1967, Netanyahu returned to enlist in the Israel Defense Forces. He trained as a combat soldier and served for 5 years in the special forces of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. Now remember, we'll come to that later and how that's forgery, and I believe ties with the staging of the attacks on the 7th of October 2023 to stage false biblical prophecies. Following his discharge, he left to study in the United States, but returned in October 1973. 1973 is a key year because it's when the MK program supposedly stopped, which is very important in relation to all of this. MK is the mind control program used by the intelligence agencies, tying back to Germany again, which links to the Flemings again from the latest research and evidence I've got. So it overlaps very, very quickly. Right. Bit of a mouthful of that lot. So let's look at the Companies House records, and you can verify all of this. So when you type in the word Netanyahu with the same spelling of Benjamin, it brings up one name. This name. Now remember, there's no verification deliberately by the UK government, so they're allowing false details to use, but you can still see the relevance through the research, and we're going to show why. So one person comes up, Netanyahu, supposedly born 1973. That links to Crown Cars Direct Limited, Crown, making a reference potentially to the royal family, but it gets more interesting. Within that company, there's only one director, this person here. There's two directors. This is one of the other ones that we're going to look at in a bit. The other director, don't know if I've shown it actually. I haven't shown it. But when you look at Netanyahu, it states that he's Israeli. Okay. Now let's look at Crown Cars Direct. So all we've done is gone into the company now, and we're looking at it. So it was dissolved in 2014, but it was incorporated in 2012, December 2012, the same year that the Higgs boson, or God's particle, was supposedly created, okay, by CERN Hadron Collider, based in Switzerland, in Geneva, with 666 twisted into its emblem. Go and look at it if you don't believe me. When you research CERN Limited, it goes to Export Manor Freehold Limited. Okay, it dissolved as I was exposing the fraud. Okay, so 2012, they supposedly created the God particle. This company goes to the formationscompany.com Limited on its incorporation document, the formationscompany.com Limited. So I searched my previous saved documents and one entry came up. Only one entry. And it links to Flemings Co. Limited, which links to the World Trade Center disaster research. You can see I've got 9/11. Now, that was the only record I'd saved in relation to that company. So now you have a link to a Netanyahu name in Israel to the Flemings, and let's see where it leads. So here's Fleming Co. Limited, based in Scotland. Remember what we're talking about, Edinburgh, and how important Scotland is in all of this. And its active proposal to strike off. So they're starting to dissolve the company as the exposure continues. It was incorporated on the 5th of May 2017, which I think becomes relevant later. On the incorporation document, you have Fleming Avenue in Clydebank, Scotland, but you have one name of Ahmed Gulzar of Glasgow in Scotland. Now, this is very unusual. For a Fleming company, out of all of the ones I've seen, you only have one director on this company. And just to confirm to you, on its incorporation document, it has the formationscompany.com Limited. So it links back to that Netanyahu name. Oh. Now, let's search the Formations Company.com Limited. Now, when you search within Companies House, I couldn't find it. It's overview. When you search it on Google, it comes up. Okay, so I've just typed the formationscompany.com, the formationscompany.com Limited on the left here. It brings it up. So then you go into the overview. It's also now in the process of dissolving. Active proposal to strike off. Remember, as the exposure continues, key companies are dissolving, people are resigning. It was incorporated in 2009. And that's going to become relevant as we move forward. These are the incorporation documents. And you also have a name on the document of Margaret Cheed, we'll come to in a minute. And on the persons of significant control and companies of significant control, so click people, and then there's a tab to the right of it. You have Legal Zoom UK Holdings Limited. Legal Zoom UK Holdings Limited. When you search that company on Google, it comes up with a record. Legal UK Holdings Limited. When you click on it, forbidden. Now, I've never had that, I think, with any companies. I've looked at probably 10, 11,000 companies now out of over 5 million. 5.3 million, I think there is on Companies House. They've now restricted all entry to that company. I may have seen it once before. I don't think I've seen it at all. I can't remember. But forbidden. And it's not that I didn't have a signal. I managed to get into everything else. They've completely hidden the record for that company. That is significant, people. When you search LegalZoom on Wikipedia, it comes up with this. A company, online legal technology and services company, launched in 2001, the same year as the World Trade Center disaster. LegalZoom is an American online legal technology and services company launched in 2001. It helps its customers create legal documents without necessarily having to hire a lawyer. So it appears to be a loophole for the creation of the companies in terms of legal advice. Okay, so this could very well be very relevant in relation to the escalation since 2001 of everything. Now, in 2001 also, you'll see from my other evidence, but just mention again, they positioned a high priest within the Church of Satan, okay, after or in 2001, the same year. On this company, for the research for LegalZoom, there's founders, there's 4 names here, and we're going to look at them. The first one brings up Brian Sung Lee, of a date of birth of 1971 again. So whenever I'm researching key individuals, 1971 seems to be the date on Wikipedia. That, of course, is the same year as the creation of the World Economic Forum. Julian Assange, Darren Brown, many people, key people that I've researched, have 1971 as their date of birth. They've put the symbology in the evidence and the links there for the right person to find it. Now, this person links to South Korea. Okay, South Korea, American guy, and there he is, according to this. So in March 2001, he, along with Robert Shapiro, we'll come to in a minute, and another few people, co-founded and launched LegalZoom.com. In May 2009, these people founded and launched Shoedazzle. We're not going to look into that at the moment. But Lee, this person, also, and Jessica Alba, we'll come to her in a minute, and Sean Kane co-founded the Honest Company and Consumer Goods. So let's look at Jessica Alba in a minute. But at the bottom there, you can see in 2022, the same year, remember, I was starting to acquire the evidence, he and Derek Jeter co-founded the Arena Club. Now, I haven't looked at the Arena Club yet, but it very likely will tie in with international arenas and venues, I would think, which are all important in relation to this. Above that, he says he has been a managing partner of BAM Ventures in a venture capital firm since 2017, the same year that Fleming and Co., I believe, dissolved. Sorry, was no, where was the 2017? Yeah, it was in Fleming and Co., wasn't it? Sorry, it was incorporated in 2017. So let's move forward. So let's have a look at where the evidence goes. So these people that he were linked to, let's have a look at Mr. Shapiro. Robert Leslie Shapiro, 1942, is an American attorney and entrepreneur. He is best known for being the short-term defense lawyer of Eric Menendez in 1990 and a member of the dream team of O.J. Simpson's attorney that successfully defended him from the charges that he murdered his wife. So I've just mentioned that because I think that's quite relevant. Because what I'm finding is many, now I'm not saying O.J. Simpson is a serial killer, but many serial killers are linking into the evidence that I'm finding around this system of crime and fraud. So Shapiro was born in New Jersey to a Jewish family. He graduated from Hamilton High School in Los Angeles in 1961, the year that De La Rue purchased Waterloo's, which Waterloo's links to the Freemasons, and UCLA in 1965, the same year as Jordan's and Sons Limited was founded. Okay, remember, before the foundation of the Church of Satan. Shapiro was admitted to the State Bar of California in 1969, the same year that Charles became the Prince of Wales and the landing supposedly on the moon. In the cases, he was involved in various cases, high-profile cases. In the case of Lyle and Eric Menendez, who murdered their parents in 1989, Shapiro arranged the surrender of Eric in 1990, who at the time of Lyle's arrest was in Israel. So I've just highlighted that because we're talking about Israel. Okay, now remember, Lee, who founded the LegalZoom company, was also involved in a company with Jessica Alba. Now this now makes a link to the entertainment industry, because Jessica Alba, born in 1981, the year after the Georgia Guidestones, is an American actress, businesswoman, and entrepreneur. She began her acting career at age 13 in Camp Nowhere, followed by The Secret World of Alec Mack in 1994, and rose to prominence at the age of 19 as the lead actress of the television series Dark Angel between 2000 and 2002, with the World Trade Center disaster in the middle. Dark Angel. Bearing in mind, we're talking about satanic cults, angels and demons. Dark Angel. Let's look at this a bit more. Her big break came when James Cameron picked Alba from over 1,000 candidates for the role of the genetically engineered super soldier Max, not going to try and pronounce that, on the Fox sci-fi television series Dark Angel. The series ran for 2 seasons until 2002, the year after the World Trade Center disaster, and earned Alba critical acclaim, a Golden Globe nomination, the Teen Choice Award for Choice Actress, and Saturn Award for Best Actress. Saturn. Now, some of you may know that Saturn is very important in relation to satanic cults, okay, and tying in with the cube of Satan. Now, we're going to come to Saturn companies, but the evidence that I'm acquiring through Companies House in relation to Saturn ties in to a one world order and them appearing to try and normalize and facilitate a one world religion that normalizes abuse, murder, and torture of children, and also cannibalism. So let's look at Dark Angel, the TV series. So it was set in 2019 and chronicles the life of Max, a runaway genetically enhanced super soldier who escapes from a covert military facility as a child. In the dystopian future, Seattle, she tries to lead a normal life while eluding capture by government agents and searching for her brothers and sisters scattered in the aftermath of their escape. Now, even this is becoming relevant to the satanic agenda because that ties in with a dystopian future, mind control, transhumanism, okay, and the control through full digital control and currency. Now, they only did this show with that company. You can see at the bottom, the only show produced by the company, Cameron Egley Productions. And this was filmed in Vancouver. Now, that's very unusual. One company just produced one show called Dark Angel over the time of the World Trade Center disaster, which I believe was a satanic attack. The evidence is now overwhelming that they were brought down as part of this international collaborative deception and satanic fraud against humanity. So James Cameron was involved in the production of that Dark Angel. And James Cameron was born in 1954, according to this. Now, 1954 is the year, and I believe it's an authentic document, the Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars document, where the international elite linking to the Rothschilds declared a war on humanity. This then ties in with the MK Ultra program as well. Now, reading down some of James Cameron's other movies, some of them are my favourite movies ever. Okay, I don't think that's a coincidence. The Abyss, I love that movie. Aliens, but we're going to talk about quickly Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which started came out in 1991. Now, Judgment Day is important. Remember, we're talking about an apocalyptic event here with all of this, and we're going to show more information later in relation to that, tying in with the evidence. And it was about time travel. Okay, just mention that for now. And it's the year before Companies House started the process for the digital register. Okay, remember the digital register has been forged against the incorporation document. This is the forgery through the register. Interestingly, he also created True Lies. True Lies. Okay, look into this now. Okay, True Lies. This is what we're living under, deception here. So they're telling us the deception, I believe. That was in 1994, the same year as the Stargate movie came out on my birthday, which ties in with portals and other stuff we'll talk about later. But importantly here, Avatar is mentioned. Avatar, 2009, again. Remember, the formationscompany.com was incorporated in 2009. We're going to come to Avatar in a minute, and you'll notice Titanic. Now, again, this becomes relevant because the evidence or information, shall we say, around Titanic suggests that ties with JP Morgan and Tesla and potentially a satanic attack on that boat as part of a bigger deception with all of this going on, okay? And that, the JP Morgan and Tesla links back in with the Flemings, okay? Because they're linked to the JP Morgan company, all linking into this. So let's have a look at Avatar. Avatar, it came out in 2009. It was directed by James Cameron. And again, it's about humanoid species indigenous to Pandora planet. The title of the film refers to genetically engineered Navi body operated from the brain. Now remember, we're talking about transhumanism in real life, I believe, potentially a threat to humanity if we don't stop this. And this, I think, is going to tie in with Elon Musk's Neuralink and artificial intelligence and the mRNAs. But this movie, which I'm going to get to the point in a minute, the production company involved in it, one of them was Ingenious Film Partners. Ingenious Film Partners. And we're going to come to why that's important in a minute. So here's back into the formation company. And they were appointed Margaret Cheed as a director in 2009, the same year, obviously. And then they resigned in 2012, the year of the God particle or Higgs boson particle. And Margaret Cheed links to Halo Services Limited. Now, I haven't focused on the Halo companies a lot throughout the fall, but they are there. We're going to see why that's so important. So, many of you that's in my other evidence will know this company, the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, if I can zoom in on it, is incredibly important. I love to use the word important, don't I? And that was also incorporated in 2009. Okay, so the same time that the formationcompanies.com Limited was created. And it's also the same year, of course, as the Avatar came out that we've just mentioned. And you can see all the previous company names, key changes in dates, and the dates that are relevant, specifically its creation, 2009, but the change of the name was a few days after the God particle was supposedly created by CERN, okay, in July 2012. And then the name changes at the top here, 6th of September 2019, 3 months before the outbreak of COVID, and then again, as I'm exposing the fraud in 2002, they changed their name. On the incorporation document, you have Bates, Wells, and Braithwaite's. Those of you seen my evidence in relation to the Satanic Temple of the United Kingdom will know that that links to Keir Starmer and the Madeleine McCann case, and also to the P. Diddy case, because they were involved in, and are involved, I believe, in defending P. Diddy in the case. So that links the United Kingdom Prime Minister with the international child trafficking being investigated via P. Diddy. And of course, Keir Starmer was the Director of Public Prosecutions at the time of the Jimmy Savile case, which is all relevant to this. All relevant. So remember, we had Ingenious Film Partners mentioned, with David Cameron linking to Avatar, and we had the Halo company, Halo Services. Well, on the incorporation document for the Prince and Princess of Wales is Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. You can see it within the red there, and at the bottom there, it's meant to be red, but we'll say black, the Halo Trust. So this is on this very important document. It also has the Monks Investment Trust Public Limited. Now, when I researched that on another document, it goes into JP Morgan and appearing to tie with the abuse of children on islands off the coast of Wales by monks. Also, further up on the document, you have links to Lloyd's companies, Lloyd's Bank. And those of you who've been following my evidence will know that through the company I was removed from, Export Manor Freehold Limited, I acquired forged Lloyd's Bank documents. Okay, that complaint has never been finalised, purely asking Lloyd's Bank to confirm if they created them or not. It's a simple question. And then the Hakluyt company, which then links into the Russian government, okay, via the research and evidence. This all ties in. So I know it's complicated, I understand that, but we've got the key dates linking in from Netanyahu. Remember, we started with Netanyahu tying in with the Flemings, then linking in through the evidence via the other research into Hollywood via Jessica Alba, into Ingenious, then into this royal family document, which is key. And this was when I released this document, and it's linked to the threat from directed energy, which we'll come to in a minute. That's when the portrait of King Charles was released on the same day, the 14th of May 2024, which is a satanic portrait that appears to have an inverted image of a Baphomet. Remember, we mentioned the Baphomet earlier. So back into the formationscompany.com limited, and on the right you can see Craig John Holt, and you click on him and he connects on the right to Dunn Wilco companies. And I've just shown you some of it. Dunn Wilco. This now makes a connection to Donald Trump immediately via his companies. I'm going to show you why. So we've gone into Dunn Wilco, one of those companies, 1713. Dissolved in 2013, created in 2011. And on the incorporation document, you have Dundas and Wilson, CS LLP. Dundas and Wilson, CS LLP. Also within that company, remember I've just shown you some examples. We've talked about the threat from directed energy. Within that company, Kenneth Rose on the left links to UK Smart Metering Group Limited. So the smart meters obviously are being put in everybody's home, and I'm hearing many stories that they're having no choice. They're having to accept smart meters which emit electromagnetic frequencies harmful to biological life, including humans, in their homes. They're having to have them. And this company dissolved as I was exposing the fraud, you can see here. Based in Glasgow, again, Scotland. You can see it dissolved 29th of October 2024. I've already released the evidence, the threat from directed energy. Now, it was incorporated in 2010. You can see the previous company names at the bottom. And another company, the director, links to Smart Meter Systems Limited. Again, it dissolved as I was exposing the fraud. So they're panicking as the evidence is released to the threat of directed energy. They're panicking and dissolving all the companies. But that doesn't mean they're going to stop their plan. And I think now all of their plans are being scuppered. And what I'm showing now is the ultimate potential threat, okay, in relation to nuclear weapons that they now appear to be heading towards, and potentially falsified biblical prophecies whilst they save themselves. But I have evidence that they may hide in their tunnel systems in Switzerland, and I believe that their tunnel systems will be flooded and it will cause their demise. So I'm trying to save them and everybody, but it's up to them how they move forward with this. And they have to make the choice, okay, to return to moral conscience in a rational state of mind. It's all about the choice. It may be they're hoping and pushing humanity and the evil, sinister plan they have because they're... Sorry, just get back to the page again because I moved it. Hoping that suddenly something or somebody or, deity is going to appear to them. But I believe it's within our awakening of the conscience and the moral integrity within that's been given to us by our Creator. Okay? I don't believe humans are gods and should even be able to make prophecies come true through their actions. That's down to gods or creators. That's not down to humanity. Okay? And those that believe they can do that are Satanists, are against our Creator. So Donald Trump, let's have a look at him. So he was born in 1946, 2 years before the Israel-Arab War, I believe. He's an American politician, media personality and businessman who is the 47th President of the United States. Several people have mentioned this to me, actually. So 47th President of the United States, a member of the Republican Party. He served as the 45th President from 2017. 2017 relates to the date of the Fleming Co. Company. But look at this, in case you're not aware of this. 47th. If you add that together, it makes 11. 45th, if you add that together, it makes 9. 9/11, the date of the World Trade Center disaster. I doubt very much that is a coincidence with all of this going on. So let's look at Trump International Golf Link Scotland. So it opened in 2012, the year of the Higgs boson or God particle creation by CERN. In 2006, Trump purchased 1,400 acres just north of Aberdeen in Scotland with the intention of turning it into a £1 billion golf resort and the world's best golf course, capable of hosting world-class events such as the Open Championship. I'm going to do an hour this video. Sorry, I know I'm dragging on a bit here, but I'm trying to get to showing you how important all of this and show you the evidence. So let's look at Donald Trump's companies on Companies House. Remember, Dundas and Wilson links immediately from that research that we've just done into the formationscompany.com, which links to Fleming Co. and also the Netanyahu name. With fraud, there's fraud all the way through this, everybody. Remember, criminality, crimes linked to satanic cult. So here's Donald Trump, Trump Hotel St Andrews Limited, based, it's got the address in Edinburgh. And we've already mentioned Edinburgh and the connection to the world's oldest Freemason lodge. Sorry, I haven't got round to highlighting this. On the incorporation document, Dundas and Wilson, CS LLP, exactly the same company. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but it's just, so what? It's the same company. They've got tens of thousands. But the fraud is being linked to the same names, okay, in many, many situations. One example is Harrods linking to Export Manor Freehold Limited, the company I was removed from via the same name, Mavis June Latter. Okay. So let's have a look at that company, Dundas and Wilson. On the left, searching Companies House record, Dundas and Wilson comes up with Dundas and Wilson CS LLP. When I did it, dissolved 2023 as I'm exposing the fraud, based in Edinburgh, where the oldest Freemason lodge is based. It was incorporated in 2004, so it's not like it's a new company. So as the exposure happened, they are dissolving them. On the right, this director, who was born in 1972, the year after the World Economic Forum started, and was appointed in October 2019, 2 months before the outbreak in Wuhan, which I believe, in fact, I'm almost certain that COVID and the vaccines were a false flag to the threat of directed energy. And I think Deborah Fleming knew that as well, realised it was being exposed. And when I exposed the latest evidence on the 10th of March, she changed the messenger system on the WhatsApp group that I was sending the evidence to her on, the only time that had ever happened. I suspect that's because she realised. Look at the director, the company they're linked to, Sold Out Limited. Remember, we're talking about Satanists. We're talking about souls. We're talking about angels and demons. They're also linked to Nabarro LLP. Remember, we're two companies away from Donald Trump. There's over 5 million registered companies. Now, my previous evidence and research in relation to the threat from directed energy has exactly the same company on it. Nabarro LLP, shown on page 101, and Sold Out Limited on page 102. And then on the very next page, page 103, evidence tying in with Jimmy Savile. Okay, and then the evidence going down further from that, from CMS Cameron McKenna Nabarro, which also links quickly, ties in to the Freemasons, to the royal family, and to international child trafficking via Jimmy Savile. So that's how quickly that links from Donald Trump. And remember, that's from the threat of directed energy weapons document, which comes in through all of the companies, and it links to Siemens. I couldn't remember the name for a moment there. So we'll have a quick look at the directed energy weapons document. You can see here Siemens. This is on one of the pages, 93 of 180 of that document. It calls Siemens is a German multinational technological conglomerate. Its operations encompass automation and digitalization in the process and manufacturing industries, intelligent infrastructure for buildings and distributed energy systems, transport solutions, as well as health technology and digital healthcare services. Siemens is the largest industrial manufacturing company in Europe and holds the position of global market leader in industrial information and industrial software. It was created in 1847. So that is 3 years after the Companies House system was created. And it actually links somewhere in the evidence here to the Nazi concentration camps, as shown further down in 1972. It's also linked to IBM, which links to the fraud and the World Trade Center disaster. And then in the Companies House records, I'll just show you as we go down here. And it's based in Hampshire. You can see on the right there, Siemens Public Limited Company on the right. Hampshire, this is where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 billion budget and 10,000 staff. And she's the one that called the meeting to remove me. And it's a criminal, fraudulent company. Should never have even been operating. Siemens Schuckert Industries on the incorporation document. That's never been registered on the overview. Criminal company. And then when you go into it further, Engineering and Technology Board. Allen and Overy, which links to the fraud. And then it then links to the German-British Chamber of Industry and Commerce. I'm not going to show you all of this because I'll be here for hours. Fraud all the way throughout. Let's find the German-British Forum. CMS, there you go. CMS, Cameron, McCann, Nabarro, Olswang. Remember from Donald Trump, we had Nabarro LLP. So there's the German-British Forum company. This is all linking in, okay? Very quickly. Robert Fleming Securities. See, so it ties in with the Flemings. Remember, the Flemings called the meeting to remove me for refusing to file forged bank documents. Ties in with the petroleum company, petrol and gas, defrauding the public and exploiting and victimising them by not paying tax, because they'll be able to falsify their accounts, which means everyone else has to pay more. All the people that are... And there's Nabarro LLP. Remember, exactly the same company that links almost immediately to Donald Trump. So that was from... There is Nabarro LLP. So you can see we're there already. And then there you get to sold out. So that's coming in from Siemens. And then further down, I'll just show you. It links into Donald Trump via the Outward Bound Trust that he was part of. Farah and Co. on that company. That links to Ghislaine Maxwell. Go and look at, type in Ghislaine Maxwell and look at her companies. You'll see it on the incorporation document. You then have Bryanston, which links to a school. Outward Bound, various companies on the incorporation document. And on the same document, you can see Grand Lodge Limited, Grand Lodge Publications. That refers to the Freemasons Lodge. So on the right there, you then have a connection to the Princess of York, Beatrice Elizabeth, and to the Rothschilds, and then Prince Andrew on the right. Then have an address at Buckingham Palace via Prince Andrew, to the Gordonstone School, and then that connects to an address which is used for Companies Made Simple, which links to the World Trade Center disaster and international child trafficking via the removal of an important company name from Westco nominees. Links to Larry Silverstein. And it's a fraudulent criminal company, because on the incorporation document it's completely different. And remember, we said about the Monks Company, okay, on the document of the Prince and Princess of Wales Company Foundation. Here it is. Okay, that's coming in from the research of Siemens. You then have a link in the Gordonstone company to Royal Highness the Princess Anne. Now, I suspect all of these royals are imposters. I suspect the real royal family have been murdered. You also have Royal Yachting Association, Arbor Law House, and on the bottom, John Fleming and Co. Limited. Remember, the Flemings have their fingers in all the pies. The entertainment industry via Ian Fleming, James Bond movies. You also have the energy industry via Tesla and JP Morgan, and the pharmaceutical industry via Alexandra Fleming. Right, I've nearly an hour, so we'll come back in part 2, please. Thanks very much.